Alright, welcome back everybody. It is good to be back. I'm working a new job and everything like that, so my schedule's a little tighter than usual, but I'm still trying to get these videos out for all of you to teach you guys the wonderful game that is, what are we playing? Um, Green Little Men, well, judging by, okay, it's Kerbal Space Program. Alright, so, last time we got to Drez, and I mentioned, okay, first off, I do want to say this. Neighbors are test firing their rifles, just a couple different calibers and everything. Sometimes you might hear a bullet shot. No, I was not shot. It's across the street and in their private property, so don't worry about it. Anyways, last time I said that we were going to go to Jewel this time, set up a station and a colony on the moon of Jewel that is called Laythe, which has an oxygen rich atmosphere. But to test this, I really want to get some sort of a space plane onto Laythe. This plane would be responsible for leaving Laythe's surface and going up to the station that will be around Laythe. That way we can move Kerbals and equipment up and down from the surface, and we'll be finding a suitable airstrip and all that sort of thing. So, this is essentially the very first spaceplane tutorial in my series. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. This episode, we're gonna build a space plane, test it out here on Kerbin since it's pretty much the same atmosphere thickness and all that, and then we're going to go to Joule, then Lathe with it in a future episode. Now, a lot of people like to use the Mark 1 cockpit because it looks sleek and cool. Yeah, woo. Well, sorta. It doesn't allow me to attach anything to the front. So I use the Mark 2. That way I can attach whatever I want onto the front of this bad boy. And at first, I always do this. Always use the inline reaction wheels. And since this is going to be a space plane responsible for coming in and out of an atmosphere, I want a couple reaction wheels on it. Just to make things happy. Put a ram air intake on there. And a battery. Now, okay, somebody, I don't know if you guys can see the little steam pop up things, but yep. Anyways, so that is the start. That is our quote unquote nose cone. I wish I could do the whole, you know, quote unquote with your fingers, like two peace signs and squishing your. Yeah, I wish I could do that with my mouse. Quote unquote. Okay. Um, we're of course going to need the rocket section that actually gets us out of Lay's atmosphere for testing purposes. It's going to be Kerbin's. So I like to have at least that much fuel. Always go with the gimbling engine. It is a plane, of course. Gimbling, good. No gimbling, bad. In between these two, I do want to add another reaction wheel. This is just getting the actual main rocket system itself all built and everything. We're going to want an RCS tank so we can maneuver in space and dock, stuff like that. I mean, that is part of this thing's mission. Go up to a station, grab equipment, then bring it back down to the surface. So this thing is going to have some payload capabilities, and I'll show how I'm going to do that as well. Okay? And as far as the payload goes, there's a couple ways we can do this. And I think the best way is we're going to have a tug and everything on our space station move around the cargo and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is these are actually going to be attached to the side here like this. Okay. Structural, this guy. How far out does that bring us? Not quite far enough. Let's go a little bit longer. And this dock node here is how we're gonna grab anything that we need to bring down to the surface. So little floppy flop there, and there we go. There goes another gunshot. That sounded like a 30-06 that time. He upped his caliber. Anyways, a couple struts here, no big deal. Wham blam, there we go. Got the 2 engines there, which... Now, when I say bring down cargo, I'm not talking bring down anything crazy. And you know what? Yeah, we're not going to be bringing down anything crazy enough. So I'm just going to plop it in here. I'm going to plop it in there. Just like that. It has to be able to fit in between these two things. So our width maximum is the width of one of these tanks. We'll keep that in mind for future missions, that sort of thing. But now we can actually just go like this with these. Yep, that stays out of the way. Do the same thing with these. Boom. Boom. And there we go. Those should stay out of the way. I realize they're not symmetrical or anything like that. Alright, so that is pretty much the in the space out of atmosphere plane. We'll be able to dock small pieces of whatever we're landing in here. It'll more than likely, when we're doing landing and stuff like that, it's probably like probably just gonna be 2 or 3 of these on a docking node. Just boom, 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 boom that comes out of it. Nothing crazy. Alright, now we need our in-atmosphere engines, which have their own separate fuel tanks and everything. So, come out here. Let me check what my center of mass is right now. Alright, now with this, center of mass looks actually pretty dead center of the whole craft, which is good. That's pretty much where we want to be. Happens. They don't want to attach. They're herp derping, so we'll do one at a time, because for some reason it works if you do it one at a time, but not when you do them both. I don't get it. Whatever. Anyways, so center of mass is pretty even. A little bit more forward, I think. Okay, there's the fuel. Come over to aerodynamics. I like to put on these right here just for extra fuel flow. And then we're, of course, going to be going extremely high atmosphere, so let's get the turbojet engine on them. Shabam. And then we need more air intake. Now you're looking at this going, wow, that's 5 intakes for 2 engines. Well, yeah, we want to be able to go very, very high up with this thing. Okay. And it is going to be a delta configuration, meaning that it's going to be a flying wing, more or less. It's going to be just like that, with its control surfaces. And the key to this is to get this lift arrow centered on your center of gravity. So now we need some more lift in the back here. Looks like we're going to need quite a bit more in the back. Now you can't put a tail fin directly behind an engine for obvious reasons, but you can do like I am right now. And there we go. Now that actually looks like a pretty decent aircraft. I do want some more nose control, so I'm going to throw that on there like that. Okay. Now I'm going to need a little bit more tail lift, but that's pretty easy to get. You can actually just take things like these and stick them on there in random places and they'll give you more lift. Gotta watch where it's throwing your lift though. Little nose light, but you know what? That'll work just fine. In fact, I'll take those off. Let's see if I can't add a winglet at a slight angle in here like that. That should be good. And then we'll just use a couple tail fins up here to keep things nice and straight. Don't need this. Well, I want some yaw control, so I use Deluxes on the back. And there we go. Now everything is still out of the way of the center, so we can still get whatever we need up there. Center mass is a little behind our lift, actually a bit more than I would want, or a bit more than I do want. So what I'm going to do is make sure these front wheels are up as far as possible, and what that does is it pulls up the center mass a little bit. But then again, we're going to be pulling it back again with that. So I think I'm going to get rid of the tail one, or the nose one the way it was, and put it on like that. Now it looks like a big mess of wings and everything, but it works. And this plane should take off the way we want it to and all of that. So we're going to go ahead and do a speed test, and then after that, after we do a small speed test, we're going to come back in here and attach something to the docking node to see how it does with a payload on it. So we'll call it laythe transport Mark 1. Alright, save it. I want to do action groups here. You get to learn action groups now too. Go to custom 1, toggle engines. Pressing the 1 key will toggle my jet engines now. Go to custom 2, click on the engines, toggle engine, and number 2 will toggle on and off those engines. And this is so we don't have to use the staging, because staging you can't turn off. You can't turn off engines once they're on with staging unless you decouple them with another stage. And I don't feel like decoupling anything because, well, it's a space plane and it's contradictive of the whole space plane thing to take things off or decouple them. Let's make it daylight for you guys. Look, there goes the button. Takes a while for daylight sometimes, jeez. And bam. Very own space plane. Alright, we'll throttle up. The T key to keep things nice and center. And we'll turn on our jet engines. Alright. And we're going here. You can see a lot of fins doing a lot of crazy things when I pull back. I think we're just going to let it go to the end of the runway. I do see some wobble. Actually, a lot of wobble. That's not good. We forgot to put struts on this thing. So, come back to the spaceplane hangar. And we're going to add these. And I also forgot RCS jets. You guys suck at reminding me things in the future, because I won't be able to see your comments or anything until after I put this video up. And why does this do that sometimes? Okay. USA. USA. Okay. Everything looks good. And let's actually put on the RCS jets this time. Because, well, we'll put the RCS jets on once we actually launch it to lathe and whatnot. I'm not worried about them now. We still have a lot of design to go. The key thing was getting the lift and center mass centered while still having all the utilities we need on the plane, such as that docking port. And I think I'm getting a cold or something because my nose is running. Okay, daylight for you guys. Throttle up. Okay. Turn on the engines. And here we go. I don't see any wobble this time, so everything should be good now. Just letting the plane speed up here. Oh, saw a little wobble. Oh no. Not sure why it's wobbling quite like that. Okay, so I'm not sure why we're wobbling in random places like that. Let's just go ahead and try. I'm not touching the controls right now, as you can see down here in the bottom left. I'm letting the game veer me off the runway horribly. I lost a wing somehow. How the F did I lose a wing? Between Delta 1 and Mark 1 fuselage jet fuel. Huh. I've never had a plane fall apart on me quite like that. That was intriguing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I am intrigued as to how not straight this thing is flying. But then again, I never supported anything to the centerpiece, which is where most of the torque is coming from. And speaking of torque, should be able to. Yeah. A lot of design changes, like I said before. I'm just going to turn on part clipping just so I can put this thing on there. It normally does fit, it's just with the wings and the landing gear on there, it's being a douchebag, so. We're going to tell the game what to do and not let the game tell us what we can and cannot do. Alright, so now we should have more pitch ability. Okay. And I added more struts and everything, so it should work out for us. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait some more. Alright. Now we shouldn't have any of the problems we were having before. I got more nose pitch, which added weight to us, but I'm not really worried. This plane is a little heavier than I normally make. I will say that. Everything seems to be flying straight this time, which is good. Coming to that another runway and just barely about to hit 100 meters a second. And we're going up. Okay. Well, barely started going up. But then again, this is a very heavy space plane. Just making sure those jet engines aren't taking any fuel from the other sections. Okay, gear up. And now we go up. And hopefully we have just enough surface, well, I'll just call it TWR for you guys. There is a difference between normal TWR and surface TWR, but I won't get into that this episode. That's for a future discussion. Alright, going up and everything. So I'll make sure, if we have enough TWR here on Kerbal, we have more than enough for laythe and all that. And it looks like we're starting to accelerate now, finally. Looking at my pitch and my roll and my yaw, it looks like this aircraft is extremely stable. I'm just going to keep on going here. Atmosphere is thinning, so that's starting to thin. Getting a little bendy, wobbly at times 3, times 4. It actually holds pretty solid. A little wobbly, but I'm not really worried about that. Especially at times 4. The engine intakes and everything seem to be working great because my intake here is still at 1.2. But then again, I haven't broken past 10,000 meters. Once you break past 10,000 meters, the air really starts to thin out on you. I think we should be fine. Should be. No promises. We're also going to want to add a solar panel and or RTG on this thing so that during its flight to lathe, it actually has power to adjust and everything like that. Because these reaction wheels require electricity and everything. And it's struggling to actually go up. Didn't realize how heavy this thing was. And see, hitting the 2 key, I'm able to toggle this. Alright, so intake is dropping. Just reading the numbers here. I don't know why. Here, let me get it like this. Okay, it didn't change anything. But it looks like engine nacelle, and it's not showing the other nacelle. This one. See, that's only giving me 0.01. This one's also only giving me 0.01. These ones are giving me 0.12. That one's giving me 0.13 for some reason. That's a little odd. I think that's odd. This one's getting more than the rest. Huh. Well, still enough to keep us going forward. I am going to start to level off a little bit here to pick up more airspeed instead of vertical speed. And as you can see, we got down here the hidden runway, well, second runway, I guess you could call it, from the Kerbal Space Center. Looks like Hawaii. Big island, then 2 medium and 1 small. Kind of looks like Hawaii. With 2 jet engines, we can go down to about 0.25 intake air before we have to start throttling down. Throttling down makes it so you require less air to maintain the speed you're at and all that, so we can work it out kind of like that. Now, I honestly don't believe these engines have quite enough power to get us up to a fast enough speed to make orbital injection possible. I mean, these engines have lots of fuel, and there's 2 of them, so more than likely could just go up there with just these, but I'm doing my best here to try and do as much as possible with this fuel. And as this fuel goes down, it gets lighter, blah blah blah. You all know how that works. I'm watching this needle here. If it goes down to 0, I have to pitch up. If it's in between 10 and 100, we're looking good. And if it's between 100 and 1000, I need to pitch down. And this right here is indicative of that. If your prograde's above the brown, then you're going up. If it's below the brown, or in the brown, then you're going down. If it's way up here, you're going up way too fast, and you'll choke your engines out, which is the air intake. You'll flame out way before you get up to a high enough speed for these engines to take over. But we're slowly gaining altitude and just as slowly gaining speed. But I can kick them on just to get things moving a little bit. And this is a test. Lathe's atmosphere would pretty much be ending at this point. And lathe is much smaller. So we use them to get us going. Okay, we'll cut them. We actually need a point horizontal at this point because we're actually starting to run low on oxygen. I'm just trying to find that sweet spot where these engines still run. Okay. They are still running. I'm about to flame out though. I'm gonna get to about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 meters a second before I really do anything crazy. And we're falling. I don't know why we're falling, but we were falling. Okay. Just reducing the amount of air these things need. Alright, now at this point, if you look here, we're nowhere near an orbit by any means. We're only going to be going up to 22,000 here. Yeah. We're only going to... Now at this last point, with the last bit of oxygen that I have, there we go, we flamed out. That's what that really bad turn was. That was us flaming out. Not enough oxygen to keep us going. Turn off the jets. Now we point straight up. Straight up and a little bit towards 90. This isn't an actual spaceplane tutorial. This is just giving you guys an update video on our progress towards Jool and its moons and setting up a base over there and everything. This plane right here is indicative of the mission passing or failing. Without this plane, we won't be going to laythe anytime soon because we would have no way to put stuff back down on the surface. Well, we're getting up there. I'm looking at my fuel and oxidizer and everything looks pretty good, to be honest. And now to get it into the atmosphere, we really only need to go up to 68, 69. We are at about 40, so I'm not really worried about the slowdown on the way up. As you can see, we're not really even slowing down that much. Well, horizontal speed slowed down a good amount, but normal speed, we're still good. Alright, so right about here, throttle back up. Now I'm watching my oxygen, liquid fuel, and everything. Make sure this goes well. I don't think we have quite enough delta V in our plane. And we do not. But this does, however, comma pause for effect, allow me to test the re-entry stability of this thing. Keep in mind, we're not going to be leaving Kerbin's atmosphere with this. This is going to be attached to a rocket and brought to laythe. I'm just testing re-entry right now, and to be honest, the design looks relatively fantastic. As long as it can survive re-entry. Speed tests were good, especially for a planet like laythe. We're going to test, well, we are testing re-entry stability right now. And it's best to do it by turning off SAS and letting it rock and see where it naturally wants to go. Some planes will naturally want to go into a top spin and that sort of thing. Look, it's a little tiny mid-miss there. Mid-miss? Okay. So it looks like we came in kind of nice. Turn on the jet engines there. And as you can see, we kept at a natural nose up that whole time. And now we can kick on the engines. And resume flight. I can turn on stabilizers. Now this is no fighter craft by any means. I mean, I could do a barrel roll. Although that's not a barrel roll. A barrel roll is, see if I can pull one off, this. Okay, and no, it's not going to let me pull one off. Now without flaming out a bunch and doing stupid things. But I can turn and bank pretty nicely. Wow, I actually did a complete 180. Okay. But, yep, this is, with a couple slight adjustments I'll be doing off scene and everything like that, this is pretty much the plane we will be using to go up and down on laythe. Where this is not meant for Kerbin, it is far too heavy for Kerbin. The great thing about it for laythe, though, is it has these wonderful amounts of fuel here for getting into space and whatnot, and 2 engines is more than enough on lathe. The atmosphere is thin enough and everything like that, hence the need for 5 air intakes. But if you look, everything looks to work the way it's supposed to. Alright, until next time, guys. Actually, next time you will see this thing on the end of a rocket heading towards Lathe to scout out a possible landing zone. And until then, you guys have been great, and hope to catch you next time.